Dan Norton, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talk storytelling and all things YouTube and video and whatever else we might talk about today.
Yeah, so you are the producer of what I think is fair to say is the most, or one of the most, at the very least, successful Pokemon channels on YouTube, Deep Pocket Monsters. And you hit on it already that your specialty and obsession is with storytelling. I know that's why Benji is so excited to have you on the show. And so we're excited to really pick your brain because we got to hang out with you a couple months ago and really understand the way that you see YouTube. And you have a very unique perspective, I would say, amongst all the people that we've talked to, I think in the past 5 years, probably at least. So we got a lot to talk about and I'm excited to have you on. Benji, you have anything to say?
Well, welcome to the Creator Secrets podcast. So today, you guys, if you're listening, this is a very special episode because in 2015, I started a YouTube channel called Video Influencers, where I interviewed my most successful creator friends in the space. And I did that for years and years and years. It was one of my favorite things to do because when you're learning from people that are in the trenches, they're executing, they're getting results, they're uploading videos and they're getting tons of views, that's the best source of information. So years later, after that show was retired, we started this podcast, and it's been Austin and I. But today we're going to have our first guest. Dan, you probably didn't even know this, but you're our first official guest for this new Creator Secrets podcast. And why it's very fitting is because some of my favorite guests in the past were two things. One, they were people that you didn't really know about. Okay, of course, I've interviewed people like Gary Vaynerchuk, Casey Neistat, some of the most famous creators on the platform. But it's the ones that you don't know that much about that I think are really important to listen to because everyone's heard everyone else's advice. Okay, and secondly, it's the people that were doing something innovative, creative, or kind of different. And so today's guest, Dan, is doing both of those. One, he is the producer, I'd say, of the most successful Pokemon channel, but more behind the scenes. In his space, well known, but in the greater creator space, maybe not as well known. So we're going to get to hear fresh information. I've listened to one of his keynotes. And then secondly, he's going to be talking about storytelling, probably the most important skill that most people are kind of sleeping on, even though people are waking up to the fact that being a storyteller is so important. So if you're listening and you want to crush it on YouTube, this is the man you want to listen to. So get out your notepad, your pens. I've got mine because I'll be taking notes. And so Dan, thank you so much for being here and taking time, even though you only got 2 hours of sleep. You look way better than me, though. I will say that for sure.
Oh, no, thank you for having me, man. I can talk about storytelling and YouTube on no sleep. So that's my wife will say it all the time. I won't stop talking. In fact, Pat will tell me sometimes when we're at Card Party, an event we run, and I'm like hanging out with other creators late at night, he's like, hey, just don't spend 2 hours talking with, talking storytelling. We need to get some work done. I could keep going and going on this topic forever.
Those are my favorite people because I'm the exact same way. I could just talk forever and ever and ever on no sleep. No matter if I'm running late to something, like if somebody wants to talk YouTube and they're picking my brain about, content creation, being a creator, I'm game for that. And that's why we created this show. So we could talk in an appropriate setting. Well, a couple things. Number one, Dan, one thing that's interesting about your history is the fact that you come from traditional media, right? And I'm sure we'll get into some of his history, Austin.
Absolutely. If you want to talk about it now, that's a great time.
No, but the reason I bring that up is, when we talk about traditional history, we talk about movies and shows. Of course, it could be sports, whatever it is. And that's why you're somebody that I think would be a great resource for creators because the number one thing I'm finding out is YouTube is changing. So I guess my first question actually for you is about how you feel YouTube is changing right now. It could be like the brief version. We've got a whole bunch of questions, but just kick it off. What's kind of your gut instinct being somebody that is crushing out on YouTube right now and has seen YouTube as both a viewer consumer and an aspiring creator in the early days of your journey?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's changed in many ways. I think we're beyond the old way of like the 8-minute video. I think there's obviously people who have 8-minute videos that are absolutely crushing it. I think it's way more the viewer behavior coming to YouTube is in two extremes. One, where they're going to spend more time. They want something to spend more time watching a video to be entertained, in a replacement of what we would have watched TV for in the past, where we would have put on a channel on TV, on cable, and just let it kind of play, for the day. YouTube's kind of that now. So that's where a longer form, or it's this ultra short form, like shorts that we'd be watching,
Right.
TikTok style kind of stuff. I feel like those are the two big areas where YouTube is, that's kind of the direction that everything's going, versus what was very popular 5 years ago, 6 years ago, where it was just a lot of 10-minute videos, or you're trying to keep the videos as short as possible.
Yeah. Right.
That tends to be the direction that I feel, as on top of also just people looking for more things that they connect to and relate to, because so much AI is coming out. So much of that is great, and then it's also really bad at the same time. And because there's such a flood of really bad stuff, people are craving more human connection. And so I feel like that is a really important part of why sometimes these longer videos are so good, because there's a lot more to relate to there.
Yeah, the AI topic, I'm sure we're going to get to it. It's really just creating extremes. Just like, all kinds of shifts in the creator economy, in the different platforms that happen, create, different, challenges, new opportunities. But AI is probably creating the most extreme kind of changes. And you kind of hit it. Everything in the middle, in my opinion, is kind of disappearing. And I'll say this sometimes when I'm talking to creators, or if I'm like giving a keynote, how short form is taking over and cannibalizing shorter videos, right? So everything's going to be 30, 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes if you're lucky. And anything between that 2 minutes and 10 minutes, not really, a good strategy anymore. And then you've got things that are above 20 minutes, right? That's like the longer form content. But then I'll go back on YouTube and I'll see like 2 million viewed, 6-minute video. I'm like, oh, am I even right? But I think one thing I'm noticing, I'm just curious your thoughts, is we'll see those 6-minute videos, but those are the only ones, or it's a small group of videos that are doing really well. Versus on the extremes, you can have completely random people, right? Random creators, and maybe something that's not a creator on YouTube Shorts. And then, of course, like somebody just uploading, and I've seen plenty of this. There's like people just walking up a hill for like however many minutes, and like you would think it's boring content, but can get 1 million views. What are your thoughts in terms of that, and the fact that, my perspective is the people in the middle, there's still opportunity there, but it's kind of the old school creators with the biggest teams and the most resources and most skills. But on the peripherals, even though you're probably someone that's, not only professional, has got a production team, we'll talk more about that, but there's more opportunity for the beginners on the extremes, even though you'd think that that's where it's most competitive.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to viewer behavior. And I think the reason why it's expanding so much is just the expansion of viewers watching on their TVs. And I think that's why longer form stuff is becoming so successful, because I believe that YouTube is going to more likely share via browse or suggested longer videos, or videos that people are going to more likely watch on a TV. And so I think that's where we're seeing a bit more of that. And because there's historically just been so many 10-minute long videos that you get a lot of that. Now, it does come down to viewer behavior. So if your audience is not an audience that watches on TV, which honestly, I feel like all audiences are growing in that direction anyway. But if they aren't, then I could see where success would lie in those shorter videos. And I think there's just a lot of competition there. Now, I'm not saying that don't ever do short videos. Obviously, if your audience is watching it, if that's what the video needs to be, you don't just add a bunch of fluff to make it long. The magic isn't in the long. The magic is, are you able to make something that's engaging and captivating enough to keep them watching along? Otherwise, don't make a 1 hour long video, or like what we're doing, 2 hour long or more.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a risk there too, because those videos take a lot more time. And so if it bombs, it's a bigger risk, right? So that's the harder part with longer videos, with the amount of time it takes. But I think it all comes down to viewer behavior. I think there's a lot of kids that will watch on TV. My kids watch YouTube on TV all the time. And then even an older generation are more watching on YouTube now as well. It's just the people who have more expendable watch time that they can put that kind of stuff on. For maybe someone like in our 30s and all of that, it might be like putting a podcast or a show like this and putting it on TV and then just saying, I need to listen to it while I'm cleaning the house or I'm doing work or putting these things on, right? So it's a little bit more of a passive listen kind of thing. And then I think those naturally work their way towards someone watching it on a TV versus on like a tiny little phone that you're throwing it around. There are still those people that do it. I still do. I put podcasts on my phone all the time, and just while I'm doing stuff, I'm watching it and listening. Those are long form. So it always comes down to viewer behavior. It's never a magic number or algorithm. The algorithm always follows the audience and what they're doing. So it comes down to knowing who your audience is and how they watch. And if they're watching on TV, maybe a slightly longer video may open up the opportunity for you to be shown on TVs more. And that's how we figured out longer videos got shown on TVs, which then increased our viewership on the Deep Pocket Monster channel. And we went from basically being afraid to post a video that was 30 minutes to now being like, okay, if this could be 2 hours, then great. And not being afraid of that.
I love that you brought up the magic number. We'll get into it. But I actually personally believe there is a number now, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And this is after doing this for almost 20 years. And people ask me that, how long should your videos be? So let's talk about that. But
one of my favorite things that Benji mentioned in his introduction of you, Dan, was just how innovative what you're doing on Deep Pocket Monsters is. And what you and Pat have put together, both in the way that you're looking at things and just in your approach. I mean, you're hinting at it now, but the time that these videos are uploading as 1 hour, 2 hours, like it's kind of breaking some people's brains if they're looking at it from an old-fashioned YouTube strategy perspective. And I love that you're hitting on the TV, because you know that's near and dear to our hearts as well. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, the channel already has almost 350 million views. Your videos are constantly getting in the millions of views every single upload. And I know that you have a lot of strategy behind that in relation to storytelling. But maybe you can take us through your personal history a little bit, right? And background, because it deeply ties into that TV perspective, I think, that maybe some other people are missing. So take us through from wherever feels appropriate to you about how that background of yours maybe plays into what you're doing on the channel right now.
Sure. I mean, my love for video goes back to being in middle school, 2001. My best friend and I were doing skit videos on those little mini VHS tapes. And I am so glad YouTube didn't exist then, that we didn't have those uploaded on the internet. But those were where it started. And we would just do this to literally entertain ourselves. We would do skits and then record it on VHS and figure things out and edit on we would record the screen. We didn't know how to use an editing like software. There really wasn't something that readily available for us to use at the time that we would have even known to use. And so we were like recording on the screen, starting and stopping, like putting music on headphones, like all these things. But that's how we experimented at a really young age. And I was like fascinated and had fun doing that. We also did a lot of backyard wrestling. And so we recorded a lot of that stuff as well. And then I ended up going to film school, because I was like, well, I do this, I might as well go to film school. My dream was initially to be in a band, and we had a rock band in my garage. And just did a lot of shows successfully around here. It didn't go, like, we were a little ahead of the time. We just didn't get to that point where you could record now so easily and actually create anything, right? That wasn't available. So I was like, all right, I'll go to film school as my B plan, thinking that we'd be a successful band. And while in film school, I was working at a supermarket, and YouTube had come out. This would be 2006, and in 2007 there was a series called Chad Vader Day Shift Manager, and this is by Blame Society. They're still around. They still do stuff. I don't think they do Chad Vader anymore, but Chad Vader Day Shift Manager was a Star Wars parody about Darth Vader's cousin Chad, who's a day shift manager at a supermarket.
Wow.
And I love parodies. That's like my favorite movies, is always like these kind of slapstick comedy, parody, airplane kind of stuff. And like Star Wars parody is great, but then it also took place in a supermarket. So I was working in a supermarket, and they got the whole like supermarket thing down, like as an employee, like what it's like. And they did it in such a funny way that I connected to it so well. I remember watching it. I would have to go home and watch it because there was no phones yet that you could watch these videos on. And so I'd watch it, and I would like have to write down the link to go to my boss and be like, you got to go watch this video. And so for him to go home and go watch it and talk a day or two later. But I connected so much to him. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to produce what was at that time, wasn't called YouTubers. It was called web series. It's like, I'm going to make a web series. I don't want to make a television series. I don't want to go to Hollywood. I don't want to go into ads here in New York. It's like, I want to do this. How do I do this? And all my professors were like, there's no money online. Don't worry about that right now. If you really want to make money, you want to be a producer, you got to like focus on the traditional route. They weren't wrong at the time. They just weren't seeing the direction things were going.
Yeah.
And I knew from then in 2006 that that's what I want to do, but I couldn't figure it out. Ended up going to my second film school, School of Visual Arts, SVA in New York City. And while there, I got my first job at Major League Baseball. And it was MLB.com, where we were streaming the games. So it'd be the games that we're playing on the cable all around the world, all the different games from all the different teams. And you could stream it online. And I would cut highlights from it, real-time highlights. This is what we would call repurposing now. But back then it was just basically real-time highlights. You'd cut these things out, and within minutes it's sent to users on the app or social media as that started to build up. And then we'd be running the ads for the commercial breaks online. So here I am in film school. Professors are telling me there's no money online, yet I'm literally working in an industry where it's making money online, and they're making so much money for live baseball. I ended up working there for over a decade, 11 years, within the sports broadcast industry, doing that stuff. Obviously graduated film school, had all that traditional, went from an editor route, but focused on wanting to produce. My dream had still been, I want to figure out how to do this web series stuff. I want to make something entertaining online. Graduated film school, and I'm like, man, what do I do? I need to figure out how to fund this stuff because I don't have the money. I don't have any money. So I was like, let me look up some podcasts. I was listening to a lot of wrestling podcasts at the time. Pro wrestling is a big thing for me. So it was like, there's got to be some business podcasts. So I look up 2012, find a couple of different podcasts. One of them just happens to be Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn. And I was like, let me listen to these things, start learning how to make online money. Because I'm not going back to school for business, and that would have been the wrong decision anyway, even if I did. And that's ended up, I went on this path of learning about passive income, start looking at YouTube. 2015, 2016, start watching things like Roberto Blake, Think Media, video influencers. And so I'm seeing all of these guys, and I get connected with Owen Video, who becomes my earliest mentor, who was poured into me, took me under his wing. Didn't have to, but did it and saw something in me. And he was a huge part of leading me in the direction I needed to go, which was to take on clients, which I did not want to do. I didn't want to freelance. I was like, I just want to figure out how to do this. Make a parenting YouTube channel with my wife when we had our first kid, because I was like, I could figure this out. That channel has 13,000 subscribers. I haven't done anything with it in years, but it's just sitting there. I'm glad we did it because I got our feet wet, but I wasn't excited about parenting stuff baby stuff. And then pandemic happens, sports go down. I literally leave work and they're like, maybe we'll see you in 2 weeks. I don't know. I said, all right, this is my time. I need, if I'm ever going to build my own business, it's going to be now. And so I had a couple of little clients and I was like, I'm going to take on a bunch of clients right now and do a whole bunch of things. I took on way too many than I should have, but I needed to. And one of them just happened to be Deep Pocket Monster.
Wow.
And Pat and I had worked together a little bit prior. I was repurposing a couple of clips for him on his live stream he was doing in 2020. And he was like, hey, I got this channel I want to start. And it's not in the business space, so I don't know if you'd be interested. And I was like, oh, what's it about? He said, Pokemon. And I'm like, great, I'm a millennial. I love Pokemon as a kid. So of course, yes, let's do it. I finally can get out of doing business videos. Let's do something interesting. Little did we know it would lead us here, and little did I know it was going to finally like fulfill that dream I had in 2006 to do online entertainment web series. So that's the really long version of the story, but I feel like that kind of really shows the full circle of don't give up on your dreams too, even if it takes 20 years.
The amazing thing to me actually is I didn't know the portion about first of all, I'd forgotten about web series overall. I forgot that was the name of what we called it back in the day. But it's amazing that it starts there, that you had that vision all the way back at the very beginning, actually. And it really completes the circle for me there because, right, you have that vision about wanting to achieve a web series, which is literally what you're doing right now. No one would deny. This is like the ultimate web series to some degree. And that you have the kind of interest in the kind of, you end up in the TV space. And so you're exposed to that, honestly, longer format, kind of more TV style of things. And now with all of the right place, right time, everything converging, it makes a lot of sense that you've landed where you've landed and that you have such a unique perspective. It's pretty amazing to me.
And I think my favorite part of the story, Dan, is that you said, oh, thank the Lord, now no more business content. Because so many people are doing something that they think they should do because it makes them money or that's what's trendy. And to be frank, when I saw Pat Flynn doing Pokemon content, I was like, he is off his rocker. I thought he was doing it mostly because of his kids getting into it.
Yes.
And I didn't know at the time that you were behind the scenes yet. I was thinking, wow, you know what? Kudos for him for just doing it though and following his passion, which is funny because that is my number one advice for beginner creators. One other question they always ask is like, what should my channel be about? Like, I know what they love or something. It's like, I can read their brain or whatever. And I always say, well, the easiest thing I've always told people to do that is maybe not traditional is like follow your fun. And follow your fun doesn't always mean do what you went to school for, what makes you money, what is trendy. Follow your fun could be like in my case, I'm trying to think of something if I started like a follow my fun channel, be like gardening, right? Yeah. Gardening is like probably more realistic for my demographic. Okay, I say my demographic. But that's I think what's a great takeaway for people is you, right? And you said you're a millennial. We grew up in the same era, Pokemon and, junior high. My grandma from Japan used to send me cards. And Pat Flynn, a business guy, passive income, master podcaster. Yeah, let's just start a Pokemon channel in this world of kids collecting cards and trading and, becoming Pokemon creators. But look at, like, you and Pat arguably are the most influential Pokemon creators. And I know there's a whole bunch of other ones. I went to your guys' event in respect to those guys, but you just came out of nowhere and crushed. And I think that's the reason why we're so excited to talk to you, because of course you crushed it through a specific format on YouTube. I know that you guys do stuff with short form and Pat does his own short form content, but when it's all said and done, it was done through initially just long videos, 20 or 30 minutes, and now 2 to 3 hours. And I think even myself included can learn from that. But it all started with picking the right theme for your channel. We call it a theme when talking about like what's your channel going to be about. Even if that theme doesn't make sense to other people, it only has to make sense to you. Any thoughts there? Because it was almost like a relief for you to do something different. And the question is, why didn't you do that from the beginning? Why didn't you pursue not necessarily Pokemon, but something that was fun versus something that was like financially, like logical?
Yeah. Well, it actually goes back to a conversation you and I had back then as well, because I was so desperate, right? I was so in need of figuring out my next financial step because I had hours cut. I had the baby. We were in debt because of that and not getting the income that we need. We're based in Long Island, New York. It's like life's expensive, and the amount of hours gets cut that you're working, the things you're not working the job that you're meant to do, so that really messes with you. And then when you're a dad and a husband who's not able to, supply for your family in the way that you want to, is really difficult. And that's a lot of pressure on your back. And in my mind, that was holding me down a lot. A lot of the pressure was just feeling like I was failing as a dad and as a husband, and that weighs a lot on your decision making. And sometimes you're not able to think. I know I wasn't able to think clear. I could be very scatterbrained, especially with these kind of things. It's something even I could remember a professor in film school telling me. He's like, you've got a lot of things going on here, but you're not picking a direction and going with it. And I know that's a bottleneck that I just have, right? That I've got to work through. And I've been learning and continuing to learn how to work through getting a focus and seeing it through. And I've been able to figure that out more recently than I was then. But man, 2018, 2019, and then 2020, it was just this time of like, man, I've got this parenting channel because I want to do YouTube, but I have no desire to do parenting. I got freelance, I'm not freelance. Obviously I was looking at it as a business, not as a freelancer, but I was like, I've got these other clients, but it's like this business stuff that I'm just not excited about, but that's where money is. So I need to do that. And something you told me early on, it was like, look, if you're just pursuing it just for the sake of money, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And that always, I hear it in my head often I've heard you say that in my head many times over the years. And that was just like one quick conversation on the phone you and I had. And it was like, that it made so much sense, but I had to make sense of my situation, which was leaning into those things. Now, I'm glad I did all that stuff. Like, I'm glad I did the parenting channel to learn that I don't want to do the parenting stuff, but I also learned how to do YouTube for myself there. I learned how to take a channel to get monetized and how to get over 1,000 subscribers and have a channel that I made that was over 13,000 subscribers that my wife and I just did together with only a few videos on there, really. And then taking on clients to do business stuff. And I loved the people. I've enjoyed every single person I work with. That's a huge blessing. That's how I got my editor. My editor that I work with on Deep Pocket Monster, him and I started together. We met in Roberto Blake's group, in his like founders group in who knows what year, I don't know, 2017 or 18 or something. Him and I connected, and I know so many people have gone through so many editors. It's like the biggest headache I know for creators and business people, especially when you have clients and you're working with. I have been so blessed to not ever have had to deal with that. And so when I look back at that and I'm like, man, so many difficult things. Yeah. But the things that other people have these huge headaches with, where they have editors ghosting them, paying them, and then they leave, they don't come back for the revisions, they don't do, and I'm just like, I've not had that with my team, and I've been able to do that from a business side and be able to work through all the things on a business side to now have my same editor that I'm working with, Zach, that we're doing this level of editing with, and I would trust no one else but him to finish my videos, right? And I've got a more team too. Now we've got Ian and Chris on our team too, and I've not had any issues. Like, we're working so well together.
And all those experiences obviously helped to set you up once you got into this theme of Pokemon. And the reason this is a topic that I think a lot of people can relate to is because I can relate to you as a dad, right? If I was failing providing for my family, I would feel stressed out. I would make decisions that were financially based versus creatively based. And that's the thing about YouTube that's really important. And I think all content creation, the creative is everything. Right. And you could argue right now the creative is more important than any other individual kind of variable, including financial. But the creative helps you become more financially successful. And that's why, if you're struggling, of course, you got to pay the bills. You're going to think about, like, where's my next payday? What's a job that gives me a steady paycheck? But so many people find out in the grind, right? They'll get this window or they'll get an opportunity like you did with Pat in starting Deep Pocket Monster. That's where you're going to have not only the most fun, you're going to have endless energy. The reason I say follow your fun is because, like, okay, we know, we kind of alluded to this. You're working on 2 hours of sleep, but you're like, Benji, I could talk for hours and hours. I could talk all day, right? And that's a good example of a well that will always feed you water, because it's just something that really cranks your wheel, I like to say, right? Or lights your fire. And it's not just the fact that you probably will create something more entertaining, more engaging. You're coming from your imagination versus just like it's a 9 to 5, you're clocking and clock out. And too many people pick the financially stable thing, which is fine. Right? You got to take care of your family, whether you're married, you got kids, maybe you're a single dad, single mom, maybe you're just somebody that's struggling financially, maybe you got a lot of bills to pay. But the unlock of like that fun, creative kind of outlet, and this is why so many YouTube channels that have become successful started off as hobbies, not necessarily as like this planned success thing. You could almost say, like, even with Pat Flynn, I know he's like a business guy, probably thought, you know what, I could do this. I think I could like make this work. There's still like a hobby aspect to it, but obviously it led to success for you guys.
Well, it is amazing to me too, just to think about the kind of leaps of faith that are required throughout that, right? And I think that is a common pattern that you see across all of the creator economy, but especially on YouTube, right? Where the leap of faith is required before you can reap the rewards to some degree. So it's hard to figure out that financial dance at the beginning when you are looking to invest some ahead of time, right? But maybe don't know what the return is going to be. But you have that's why that fun piece is so important when you get to that level, that you do it for no money, potentially. Not that that's a good strategy long term, but you might be interested in doing that. And I think that actually ties us into our first topic of the day, if you guys are okay with getting into some follow-up here. Dan, do you know anything about Creator Camp, actually? Have you heard of what they're up to with Two Sleepy People and kind of their theater tour? I'm happy to.
I feel like I've heard about this. What?
Yeah, they're a little.
I'm not sure.
They're a little underground still, I'd say right now. I think they're on the precipice of doing something that's kind of interesting. So Creator Camp, they started off as a literal camp in, I think, Austin, Texas, where people would be creators. They'd fly in and they'd have kind of an interesting get together. Basically, that was just a camp over several days over the summer. This was originally fun. Benji had asked over the last couple of weeks, as an ongoing topic on the show, about how they were funded, and I have some information on that. So turns out that they were originally primarily funded by brand sponsors, so Shopify, Polaroid, North Face, etc., Coca-Cola. They've got like Rivian and stuff now as well. Those were subsidizing the camps over time, and they were these small little retreats for creators. So very sort of artsy focused. Over time, they ended up doing a film festival, and as a part of the film festival, they would sell tickets. And so they would make a little bit of money selling those tickets, have a couple of sponsors, and have the actual film festival where they would premiere, indie creator-made films. Over time, they continued to do this by tapping into tourism board budgets and things like that, doing things like crowdsourcing some of the money instead of going for VC money and studio money. And then eventually, they took a $100,000 budget over 100 days and hired, I think, a couple of creators to write and direct and star in a feature-length film. So in the last month or so, they've gone to release the film in a couple of theaters. They actually started a tour here in Seattle, worked their way down to, I think, San Francisco, and then LA, and then up to New York. And then they got a limited release in partnership with a distribution company to do kind of a slightly wider release than those 4 theaters throughout the entire country on November 14th. So they have something going there where they have a bunch of creators that were really passionate about something that really they don't have the business model quite figured out yet, but they put this thing together. They threw it together in 100 days on a $100,000 budget and actually made this film and released it in theaters. And it's had pretty good reception overall. Now, we don't know what they've made. We don't know the financials of everything like that, but I actually went to go see it last week, and they were showing it in Seattle. And I really, really enjoyed it. It reminded me of my days making silly little feature films in high school. Of course, it was much better than the ones I was making in high school, but it really gave that sense of that true indie spirit, and what you could tell was tapping into these people's audiences from the very beginning. So I just wanted to bring it up here because I'm curious about what you guys think about that model overall, and whether you can see that future, because we're talking about TV. But of course, the movies are still kind of within striking distance once you start talking about TV. And this creator camp group of folks are kind of aiming for that. They have it in their sights. So, Benji, I don't know. What are your kind of initial reactions?
Well, of course, I'm here to hear what Dan thinks about all this stuff. But one of the theories I had, Dan, at the very beginning, and you're a fitting person to kind of comment on this, is I believe the future show stars or TV stars, movie stars, Hollywood stars would come from YouTube. We actually joke about how we think Mr. Beast will run for president one day. I think before that, you won't have blockbuster hits coming from Hollywood. They'll be coming from YouTube. The shows that we all binge watch, and you can say we already kind of do. I mean, your guys' show is a good example. Come from this platform that we're on as creators, right? Called YouTube. That used to be like funny cat videos and, kids sharing breakdancing moves. I used to do b-boy battles back in the day, right? And the kids would be watching. So your era of watching the supermarket, like a Star Wars skits, I was watching breakdancers in Florida, and the kids that were in my program were like, yeah, we should do a battle. I was like, really? Okay, yeah, let's just do a battle. To now, legit, you become a celebrity, right? And you become that superstar. And this is why he's bringing up this story, because now you don't need traditional media. You don't need Hollywood. What's your thoughts on that, including this story where people are launching, their shows to their audiences, and they don't need the traditional support?
Yeah, no Hollywood involvement.
Yeah, I think I could absolutely see that being the direction that it goes for movies and TV. I think Hollywood has, it's got its gatekeepers to be able to get in there, and I think there's reason not to go there. But at the point now where there's enough money coming in to creators and just different kinds of content creators, whether it's long form or super short form, that they'll be funding enough for people to want to create these projects, or for brands to come to a creator and be like, let's make this kind of movie. And then on top of that, crowdfunding. I think that there has been big, companies that have been able to do crowdfunding in really interesting ways that can then fund the creating of television shows, movies, and all of that kind of stuff. And I think also, if you can view your content as that, which is the way we view our content now, is very much like a television show. We don't script in the same way it would be a television show. Obviously, we have to go out and do these challenges for real, but then what we do is we take that footage and turn it into a story, right? We find the story to tell from that, more like how a documentary would be filmed, but in an entertaining way, as opposed to just like a serious documentary.
Or even like reality TV, right? For example, like something like Survivor, for example, you've created these challenges, or maybe Amazing Race or something like that, where you're going out, you have these challenges, you have a format, and seeing how these people react and crafting a story backwards from that is kind of what you're saying on Deep Pocket Monsters.
Yes. Yeah. So I think there's plenty of people who obviously go out and make skit videos or whatever that can be easily crafted into that, or people who do amazing animation like content that I think could easily become TV shows that could end up on a Netflix. Or I feel like Tubi's kind of making a big push for doing this, because I believe I remember hearing them talk at Vid Summit that you keep the rights, even though Tubi, it plays on there.
Interesting.
Which is similar to like a Netflix. So you wouldn't get the rights to your content if it's on a licensing agreement with Netflix or something. So there's reason to consider things like that. And I think it's only going to open up more because of the TV element. I think the TV element has changed the game in all ways. And I know I harp on that so much, but it's changed so much for us. And so I think that's where a lot of things are changing overall, because the industry, or the people who are putting money into it, should say, are seeing TV as such a big opportunity to grasp, where they wouldn't be able to grasp that on what was cable, or even on a Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that, where there are people watching this stuff on TV there. The fact that they're defaulting to YouTube is a big opportunity for brands to be able to put money into this kind of content. And I think that's really where it's going to come from. It's, if there's no funding, there's no money, you're not going to be able to produce this kind of stuff. So it's going to come down to these, companies that want to put money into it and make that. And I don't see a problem with it, because to me, it's like, that's just what makes things more fun to watch. Like, that's why we're going. So we didn't start Deep Pocket Monster this way. It wasn't started to be like this storytelling channel. It was started to like show Pat's like collection. It was basically for him to show, open up packs and show off his collection. That was it. It was just going to be these small little 5-minute videos. That quickly changed, but that's what it initially was. And so you got to, being open to change and the opportunity that's out there and finding stories, anything is possible.
On that note, though, why did it change? Why did it go from him opening up cards, which every Pokemon fan on YouTube, understands, to the more storytelling on your videos, leading to longer videos, right? You were like afraid to do a 30-minute video. Now you're doing 2 to 3 hour long videos. Why did you guys make that change, and what were some of the benefits of it?
Sure. Well, I could give you the exact path on how it changed, because we followed this exact path. The one thing we've always been open to is we always are looking at audience behavior, and it's not just one metric. So it's looking at retention chart, it's looking at comments, it's looking at views. You put those three together and saying, all right, how are the viewers behaving, and what are we missing? Or what are we doing really well, and how can we continue to follow what, like, we want to produce a product. Our videos are products. If we view it as a business, right, we should view our videos as products that our viewers are going to take time to watch, and that's how you make revenue through the ads, right, or through selling or whatever, sponsorship or your affiliate links, anything, right? So first month, January 2021, we put out a video. It was our third or fourth video, was a mystery box. Mystery boxes were a huge thing then. So you buy a mystery box off eBay. Everyone knows that there's not going to be anything good in those boxes, so no one wants to buy them on eBay. So we were like, well, we could buy them and make the video about it, and then you make your money back, right? So it's like, even though there's not going to be anything in it, people are super interested in these mystery boxes. With this first video we did, the video hit 100,000 views in a couple days, first month of the channel being out. And we were like, whoa, okay, mystery box videos. Let's just go buy a whole bunch of mystery boxes and start making a bunch of these mystery box videos. And, we were watching the retention, even on that one. After the mystery box was finished, he still spent about 1.5 minutes talking, and the retention dropped off a cliff when he spent that. So we were like, oh, people don't want to see you talking. Let's just focus on the mystery box. Okay. Next video we did even better, because all we did was focus on the mystery box, and we didn't spend all this time of Pat talking about him, whatever, the channel and the Pokemon or whatever. It's just people didn't care, right? It's like, okay, this worked. It clued us in. Then we made another mystery box video where one of the items in the mystery box was a binder that he opened up. It was a binder full of Pokemon cards, kind of like this. And then you open it up, just for people who don't know Pokemon, open it up, and then inside would be just these sleeves. There'd be Pokemon cards inside of all here, right? So he opened it up, and there you go. That kind of shows what it looks like. And so you flip each page, and we noticed the retention. Normally in the mystery box videos, the retention is kind of like this zigzag up and down, up and down. When that binder came out and he started looking through the pages, it was flat, which meant that people are not skipping. They're sitting there watching him flip those pages without skipping. And I was thinking, okay, it makes sense. There's like 9 cards on each page. You open up 2, you're seeing like 18 right flat out. So you're looking at all these cards as he's flipping. I'm like, interesting binders. That was so sick of opening up mystery boxes at that point because they were always duds. And it was like, oh, it's just so, not fun to do. Even though the audience was wanting to watch it. So we were excited, like, hey, maybe what if we did, you bought someone's collection that you didn't look at. So you don't know what you're buying. But you're buying someone's collection, and the main key is that you're buying binders from them. Okay, great. So we did that.
That's a thing, by the way?
Yeah, you just like people who want to sell their collections. Binders? Yes.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I could never. I gave away my binder, so I shouldn't even talk because I would have much rather sold my binder. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, I mean, people come, it's like, you need money for something. You've been building up this collection. It's worth a couple $1,000s. I could sell it because I could use that money right now. Or I want to sell this so I could go buy the card that I really want. Because all these cards were smaller purchases over time. Now you could sell it and go get what you're actually looking for. There's multitude of reasons of why people end up selling in this. And so Pat was just like, hey, let's just find someone who wants to sell their collection. I won't look at it. Maybe I'll know a couple of the things in there just to make sure it's not getting scammed or something and whatever. And we would do that. And then those videos did even better. And they were more fun because Pat was actually getting something worth it instead of, a mystery box that had like pencils in it and a rag and like random things that didn't make sense. So we followed that. And then we did a video. So this is how we start looking. Like if you're always looking for like, what are people reacting to? Always being willing and open for evolution, change, adjustment as what you're going to do, but let the audience tell you what they're looking for by looking at their behavior.
How long were the videos at that time? How long were the videos and what was the AVD, at this period?
Like sub 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, they were probably less than 20 minutes. Some of the mystery boxes were probably 20 minutes, probably cut a little longer because it just takes a lot to go through them. So I would say in between 8 to 25 minutes range.
Wow.
It wasn't really like an exact science. So it was kind of like somewhere in there. The majority of the videos would have been shorter. And so, yeah, that was kind of the range there. And, AVD would actually be pretty decent, but most of it, like I said, is going to be people skipping around to go and see the things that they're looking for, what's in these collections, as opposed to what we learned in the next video that we did, which was our first, we had done a video. We wanted to do one where we were teaching people, I wanted to share what to use your bulk cards. Bulk cards are just like a stack of cards that are not the hits, not the big expensive cards. It's just the majority of the cards you open in a pack. And so you end up, if you open a lot of packs, you end up with like stacks of these things all over your house, just like these very cheap cards that are great for players, but collectors who don't play oftentimes don't care about them. Or you've got like the energy cards, which are just, you get bricks of these energy cards when you buy like an ETB. And so what do you do with those cards? So we were trying to find creative ways you could do with this. So it was going to be like a 10 listicle of like 10 different things you could do with your bulk cards. And it was like, one of them, it's like make a table with epoxy. So Pat made a table with epoxy with his, and put it on there. And then one was like making jewelry with his daughter. And another one was a trick shot with his son. So we shot a bunch of these and it was like, man, this is just so boring. Like who cares about this? Like, this is just like, it's not going to be worth putting this out. Right. We started to think like, why? I don't want to just put it out just because we shot it. It's not good. Let's figure out something we can do with it. And so we're watching the footage and we're like, what if your son challenged you to a trick shot challenge. And all of these things that you do end up becoming distractions along this like 24-hour trick shot challenge. And you do it. So he did the trick shot challenge for real. Took 24 hours to do this trick shot challenge, and then went and did all of these things. Like his daughter's like, hey, let's make jewelry, like whatever, doing all this. And his son challenged him to do it. And if Pat loses, his son wins his favorite Charizard card, Pat's favorite Charizard card, which was like a $900 card. And do the challenge. Pat ends up losing, and his son gets that, which ends up becoming this storyline that we're still connecting to today.
Wow.
And that cued us into, okay, that was our first video to hit 1 million views. One month long form video hit 1 million views, our first video. So that was 2022. And that was like, okay, light bulb went off. Storytelling. This seems interesting. And so, like, storytelling in a challenge form. This was a clued us in. So then a little while later, we were like, well, what if we were to combine the two things that are working? Challenge, a story challenge, and binders. Can we find a way to connect these? And this was the first time Pokemon had recognized the channel. And that year they had sent over a box for one of the releases called Brilliant Stars. And so, if once Pokemon recognizes your channel, sometimes they'll send you like a free booster box of the cards, and you can open it 2 weeks before the release date. And so Pat had gotten this, and he opened it up, got a bunch of hits out of it, and it was great. And so a lot of the set was pretty close to complete once it happened. So it was like, hey, you got this sitting here. What if you did 48 hours to complete the set? Mm-hmm. And if you don't complete it, you have to give it away. And like, that was our way of combining, because he has to complete it in a binder. And then it was this challenge.
Yeah.
And that video hit 1 million views in a week or two, something like that.
That was a follow-up from the last one, right? Like how long after that first one that hit 1 million views did you upload that second one?
Maybe about 6 months.
Oh, dang. Okay, yeah. 6 months. So, my biggest takeaway of this is experimentation, right?
Yes.
I teach a vlogging academy course, and I call phase 1 the phase of reps and the phase of experimentation. Because sometimes in that, in the reps, in the experimenting, you find out what works, but it's not always just that one thing. Sometimes it's the combining. Everyone says, oh, it's too late to do YouTube. There's so much competition. Everything's been done. In a certain way, it actually has. The easiest way to create something new is to combine two different things. And what's interesting about that first video that you mentioned, though, was, and correct me if I'm wrong, most of that video had nothing to do with Pokemon cards. It was just the challenge with his kid, and the takeaway, the prize literally was the Charizard card. And so everyone's just invested in like, oh my gosh, I hope, his son gets it or whatever. Right? Would you say that? And that's what's interesting, because what's one of the number one complaints of Pokemon? That's funny. This isn't supposed to be a podcast about Pokemon cards, but this is actually a great point. Everyone complains about becoming a Pokemon creator because they don't have enough money to buy Pokemon cards. In this case, it was an expensive card. There was just one card, right? And the story to get the card or to retain the card in Pat's case was what made it interesting, made it different than everything else. And then fast forward 6 months. Usually, like when you have a banger, I always say, get the next one out quick, right? In this case, it took you guys 6 months. But like you said, you combine two different things. You learn from the previous win, and then you're off to the races. And would that be like a correct assessment?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that trick shot video it's just energy cards, which most people who are Pokemon collectors or players will have a ton of those sitting around, because you've bought elite trainer boxes, which are these boxes that come with a bunch of stuff to be able to play the game, like expendables kind of thing and a couple of packs. And most people are buying it for the packs. But then you've got these energy cards, which are just, most people either throw them around or throw them out or, give it to kids or something. And it was stuff that didn't cost anything. And for it to hit 1 million views, we didn't expect it. Like, remember, this was a throwaway video. This was a video that was initially planned to be, this is going to bomb. Let's not even post it and figure out what we can do instead. It's not about like, oh, we're afraid of putting out a bomb of video. But if the video is not good.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, that's the way we were viewing it. It's like, let's not, and the channel had been building. We just hit 100,000 subscribers or we hadn't even hit it yet. I don't remember which one it was at that point. But it was, actually, we must've been 100,000 because we did that in about a year, 100,000 subscribers. So, but by the time we did that, it was probably a little bit after that. So it was kind of like, let's just rethink it. I don't want to put out something that's going to be disappointing to our audience. Right. And I think that's important. I think that's become key to why people keep coming back, is because there is a value proposition or an expectation of what I'm going to get. And when it doesn't hold up, it's kind of like, oh, okay, kind of disappointing. Right. And that may affect your decision to watch the next one. Not to be afraid and not to be like, oh, I shouldn't post it. It's like, no, post things, get them out. It's just when you hit a certain point, it takes some element of thinking, if I know this is not good, is there some way that I can make it better for my audience? That's the thought process that I have. And you have the benefit on this side of having me, right? It's not like just like, all right, I'm the creator. I just got to get something out because I've spent all this time on it and whatever. We have a team, so there's a little bit of a benefit of like, okay, I can figure things out to improve this. And that's what we did. And thankfully we did that, because if we didn't do it and we just posted it, we would have never found that valuable element of the challenge and the story. And it took us still, like you said, Benji, like 6 months, it took us a while to figure out, hey, let's make this work. And we didn't know if it was going to work. We were kind of like a little afraid of like, all right, are we going to post this challenge of this, complete set is going to work? And then it worked. And man, something about 2022, we came up with so many of our best ideas in 2022, and we're still creating new videos based on video ideas we had in 2022. So something about that time was clicking.
Yeah. I got a question on that note, because how do you know when something is a bad video versus an experimental video that could do well? Because that's not an instinct, like a beginner creator would have, because I come from the camp of experimentation is going to have some bad videos, right? So how would you answer that? Knowing when something is bad and you shouldn't put it out and it's bad for the channel, versus this is an experiment that could go bad, but it's worth doing.
It comes down to knowing your audience. The more you know your audience, the more you're going to be able to figure it out. And I like to put myself in a position to view a video as an audience member and try to view it as fresh as I possibly can. And it's hard when I've been in an edit, but thankfully, because I've got editors and I've got team, I try to keep myself away from too much of things in the rough, super, super rough cut. Because I want to be able to at least have some moment of watching it fresh for the first time or feeling fresh, so that I could kind of feel like an audience member. And I try to think in their eyes, right? You put yourself in their shoes, right? That kind of thing. I think it was the editor, Walter Murch. There's a book, In the Blink of an Eye, and it comes from the editing side of things. I read this probably close to 20 years ago. And it was like, how do you, when you're editing for theater or for theater, for a movie, but you're editing on these small screens, you're not editing the video in a way that your audience is ultimately meant to view it in, right? Because it's meant for this giant theater screen. So he came up with this idea of, especially in the digital realm, it's like, how do we now at least get a perspective of how the audience would view this video? Because when you're viewing it for a theater, you're not looking at the movie. You're looking into it because your
Right.
eyes can't fully take in the entire frame.
I always
So
have
you're
that
looking
problem. Like,
at specific things.
what side of the screen am I going to look at? It's
Yes.
funny that you mentioned that, because I always go like, am I going to look over here, or is something going to happen over here? But you don't have that
Yeah.
problem on a phone. Interesting
No.
dynamic and like a kind of like way of thinking of content.
Yeah. So his idea was to cut out little paper people and sit them on his desk in front of a screen. And when you lean back and you look over the shoulder of the little people, suddenly you're looking into the video. And obviously we're not making for theater, right? So, but that's always stuck with me. Like I did that when I made my thesis film for film school, is I cut out these little people and I sat and watched my whole movie on my screen from behind them, and you look at it differently, right? So if even the little element of handing your phone to someone, your wife, a friend, whatever, it doesn't even matter if they're the target audience, obviously best if they are, but handing it to them. And I like the idea of looking over their shoulder, and one, you get a little bit of response from them. When are they looking away? When are they not? Whatever. But also just looking at the video over someone's shoulder makes you think about it in a whole different way, right? Sometimes we've edited these videos and then you go to show somebody and you feel like you notice all the mistakes now that you didn't notice before, right? Just because simply someone else is there watching it. And so I try to put myself in that perspective. Now, I don't have my audience to hand it to, but I'll sit back and just go, all right, let me put myself into the mindset of a family sitting down on their couch, watching this, putting out some popcorn, because that's just the way we view it now. We view it as like, and that's how people are watching our content. We hear it all the time at conventions, on the chat, like different people saying they watch with their family together while they're having dinner or something, right? And so that's where I try to just put myself in that perspective. I try to think that way and then sit back and watch. And that gives me a little bit of a perspective of going, yeah, I feel bored, or, oh, this is great. I'm interested in these moments. And so to me, that's how it's worked. It's obviously it's not something that you can just figure out right away. And I wouldn't always just base it on that, because yes, if you're experimenting, you need to experiment and you need to be willing to fail. Because it's not that we'd be unwilling to fail. It's just that, am I making this for the right audience, and are they going to enjoy this, or am I making this for myself?
Yeah.
And it's not them and they don't necessarily care.
Yeah, because the reps, right? So, I mean, like, just to give context to people that don't know you, Pat Flynn was doing videos forever. He was doing a podcast forever. That's how you followed him. So he had experience talking, recording, and is comfortable on camera. You work with many different creators, and a lot of people don't know this. You went to every single, like, YouTube convention there is, okay? Yes. You're trained by some of the best. So fast forward to 2022, when you guys are in this moment, you guys can be discerning, like, this is not going to hit, right? Like, or it's not our best work. For me, I say when you're in, this is called phase 3, it's got to be at least 90%, right? 100% is always the goal. And so to give context, like, it's like A, B, C, D, and F, right? Like, I would be okay with an A-, but I'm not okay with a B+. But if you're in that phase, like you were on your own before Pat and Pokemon channel, and then, like even Pat before his podcast, sometimes you just have to have what I call like almost like a throwaway channel. And usually it's when you're a kid, right? Like you're just uploading videos for shits and giggles. It's just something fun you do with your friends. That era is so important, and distinguishing the two. I do believe, though, the main channel that you're working on, that you're experimenting and you're putting out bad videos before you know it's a bad video, can still become your big channel, because that's how Judy and I started, like her first videos in beauty were just her with shoe boxes and a ghetto camera in the middle of a dark room, right? Horrible lighting. And then my first videos are super cringe, and both channel have gone on to do like really, successful things. So one of the things too that really stands out to me about that story, Dan, is that the trick shot challenge video,
began as something that didn't hit that standard for you, but you didn't throw it away, right? What you did is you built on top of the concept and you made it such that it was something that did meet your standards over time. And that insight that you working through that thing that wasn't to your standard gave you the insight that, hey, storytelling is what unlocks it, which undergirds the rest of the history of the channel, right? So then you bring us forward to the I forget exactly, it was complete set in 24 hours or lose them all video, right? Which was 6 months after that. You use that as the basis for that video, which gives you the tool set. By maintaining your standards, it gave you the tool set to make that one take off. I mean, that you said you hit 1 million views in a week. I'm assuming it went beyond that and it was even more successful. And it's still kind of the format that you hit today, right? But at the time, this is still 3 years ago, right? So 2021, 2022, I think that those videos were still kind of in that range that you gave us at the beginning, 15 to 20 minutes, right? And you're doing all this amidst the pressure of TikTok and Reels and just short form in general. And so that's putting pressure on your video length and things like that as well. And so can you finish the rest of that story for us? How do you get to the point where you've now have a very pretty, locked in format where you're truly in what Benji calls like a phase 3, where you know what you're doing and you're using all of the rest of these lessons to kind of build out these things that are consistently hitting pretty much every single time. So can you tell us the rest of that story?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we went into that with that complete set and go, oh man, okay. One, this video was so fun to make. So like on our side and on Pat's side, like he had fun. Like he was actually a little nervous about it from what I remember the very first one, because it was just like, oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull it off. And the funny part is like he already had a whole lot of the set already made. Where now we're doing it from scratch and he has even less time a lot of the times and he's just like going right into it. So, but the thing is, it was just so new. So it was just kind of this idea of like, oh my gosh, it's like, is it going to be worth the effort that we're putting into this compared to what we had been doing? Because these videos take so much more effort. And especially now they take a month to make or more. A lot of times it's a year of planning and then a month of shooting and then a month of editing, it's like not a month of shooting. It's like usually about 2 days of shooting, but then like a month of editing and scripting. So, it's a lot of effort, but it really clued us into, okay, this is a lot more fun. The audience had a lot more fun. The retention chart was just like smooth. Like that cues us in. The comments were just like everyone talking about, oh my gosh, like this was so interesting. So I'm like, man, okay, let's just go deeper. Let's go, instead of just being like, all right, now here's just a thing, like just go deeper into this, deeper and deeper. That video I think is somewhere at like 14 or 15 million views now. Wow. The one that hit was a few months after that, and that was same kind of setup. That video was like 25 minutes and that's at 21 million views the last I checked.
Crazy.
Dang.
Still one of our top videos, and so that's like that alone is still driving views right now, even after, and that was like January 2023 when we did that one. That's our best one. And that's kind of always like the marker of what we want to hit and beat and get, like knock that out of the water with the storytelling now. So we just kept going. Now we were still doing some other videos, some of the other videos that our audience liked, like Pat sitting at a desk, opening up stuff from Etsy, like bought a bunch of weird Pokemon stuff on Etsy. And that was like these fun little things. And those became like filler videos that we ultimately stopped doing. And we're going to transition to doing those for live streams. Which is cool. And that's something even to consider too, right? Maybe you've graduated from a certain video style or video type, but your audience is nostalgic for it or craves it. Maybe doing it in a live stream format is a great way, because now you're naturally able to create that video longer in a sit back moment, but it's less about needing to put a video out that's going to take the same amount of effort that our longest form videos would, but not get the same result and only take away from editing our longer videos, to saying, let's just do it as a live, because hey, it could get done in the time of the live stream. It's longer, but it's also very community based and very focused on the people who are there. So like that is a way that we're transitioning into next year's, adding some more of those type things to our live streams, where it's like some of the former videos that audience really liked, but would not perform in the same way. and not worth the amount of effort our whole team has to take to do it.
Yeah.
And that's specifically to us, and why we've stopped, because it's the amount of effort that goes into for the team and Pat to do that stuff. And so we've transitioned to those. So now everything is storytelling. Every video, it affects the next video, or it affects some video down the line in that year, to where now I'm even plotting out a year in advance.
Wow.
Where we are going, or where we might go. Now, obviously, the result of a video is going to affect the other videos. So if he loses, I can't plan if he's going to win or lose. But what I can plan is that he's either going to win or lose. So I need to figure out what are the branches of what happens if he wins this one, what happens if he loses this one. Okay, then this is the direction that next video goes, or a video further down the line, right? So you could think about those things. So a lot of people think like, oh, I can't figure out the title or thumbnail because I don't know what's going to happen until I do the video. And it's like, okay, sure. Granted, you don't know the scenarios that are going to come up, and maybe something interesting is going to adjust that. But you do know that there's probably one result or another, or maybe at least a couple that you know could be the results of those videos. So plan for all of them.
Yes.
So that then when you know when it ends, you know the direction you're going. It also helps us to know that when we shoot, because then if Pat loses, we know how he can react, or what we're going to say on video at that point. And if he wins, we know how he's going to react and go that way. It's not faking it. It's the idea of, we just know the direction. So now we could set up the story for the next video, because now we want to build momentum from video to video. We want one video to affect the next one. I mean, no matter what kind of video, even if you're doing talking head stuff, you still want to get people to watch another video. So how do you build momentum to get them to watch it? You need to know, like, they need to hit a point where they just go, okay, the next thing I need to do is watch this next video, right? Like, that's just what I need to do. And if it's not out yet, I can't wait to watch that next video. That's why people subscribe. They don't subscribe. Most people say like, oh, subscribe and treat it like a thank you. Like, hit the like button and subscribe if you liked this stuff, because I work really hard at putting this out for you. No one does that. No one cares about that. The reason they hit subscribe is because I want to watch the next video. Yeah. That's why I'm hitting subscribe. And so a lot of times we're like, hey, if Pat loses, he's going to give this away on a future live stream, right? So it's setting up for the next video, which is a live, and then it clues people in. Oh, okay, so this channel does live streams. I got a chance to win this. Of course I'm going to subscribe and want to go. I want to go and be a part of this community and watch these live streams. I want to see another video like this. So if he wins and it sets up to, hey, here's the next thing that's happening, that's going to go. Like, we did one where it was our best performing video of the last year is Pat trying to collect every Gengar ever, which is a particular Pokemon, ghost Pokemon, that he did throughout the Halloween season last year. And when that ended, the very end of the video, he gets sent a binder from the binder company that we work with, Vault X, opens it up, and it's a Japanese Gengar, and it says October 31st, 2025. And so it sets up the video that's coming out next for us this year, this month.
Ultimate storytelling on steroids, because it's hard for me to do just in one, but to think about it in like a year's perspective or years. That is the difference between a channel that just has one video pop off versus every single one.
Which brings us all the way back to the original topic, right? Which is that this group of folks who are releasing this movie in theaters are here, and they're saying, we believe in this storytelling, right, to get people into an actual theater, and that it's going to drive the word of mouth around that storytelling is going to A, make people love this creator camp group, and B, get them back into the next theater, right? And so, you're hitting on a bunch of really deep themes here, Dan, which is the power of storytelling. You talk about planning ahead in Vlogging Academy. When we have that sort of idea of what we're going for, of course, it's much looser in Vlogging Academy, but we call it a working title, right? You come up with your working title ahead of time, and you kind of know what you're going to do, but are open to changes depending on how things kind of fall out or better ideas that might come along. And then also just creating that desire for people to come back, right? That is the deep power of storytelling, that you can leave a couple of loose threads, or you can have recurring bits that happen over and over again that become part of the channel's kind of heartbeat to some degree, that set up expectations every single time and get people coming back. And of course, all of that is the thing that you've brought up multiple times, which is TV, which gets us to the next topic, which is another movie that has been released on YouTube, actually. So it's really hitting one by one. By the way, you guys are basically releasing movies every single time you upload a video. It's kind of incredible. 2-hour-long feature-length films, once a month or a couple, every couple of months. It's really incredible. This one is a little bit more low-key. It happened over a longer period of time. It's people figuring out kind of what the appetite for this is on YouTube. It's called Listers, and it's a bird watching documentary, believe it or not. It has 2.1 million views, so it's kind of in a similar range.
How long is it?
It's, I think, 2 hours long as well.
Wow.
And it's a guy and his brother, and the story that I heard about this through Colin and Samir, by the way. They have a great interview with him that I recommend everybody check out. The guy that produced the video, it's his brother, and he was super high one day and looking at a bird watching book. He's like, I'm gonna find every bird in this book, basically, kind of similar to what you talk about with the way that you do.
Gotta catch them all.
Gotta catch them all.
Yeah.
And so they talk about it, and I only bring it up because they talk about, well, first of all, they frame the interview around something that Jimmy Kimmel recently said in relation to kind of everything that's happening in the late night scene, right? So late night shows are kind of dropping left and right. There's like lots of questions about the future of traditional broadcast TV. And this is what Jimmy Kimmel says in an interview with Bloomberg that we've talked about. That's where we heard about stuff from Adam Mosseri. He says, I'm very conscious of the fact that ABC pays for the show and YouTube pays nothing. YouTube gets to sell it and keep half the money. He's talking about Jimmy Kimmel's show, how they upload the clips to YouTube, right? And that's quite a deal for them. It really is. And this is a platform not just for Kimmel and ABC, but this is a problem for everyone from studios like Lionsgate trying to justify their massive budgets to independent filmmakers searching for a way to make a living off their art. And yet, you guys at Deep Pocket Monsters are uploading a feature-length film / prestige TV series basically once a month. Guys like these two bird-watching people with Listers are uploading their self-made docs for, I think it was $16,000, their own Patreon budget that they put into the thing. And it's getting these millions of views. And here's what they say. 70% of people that are watching this documentary are seeing it on TV. In the interview, he says, we uploaded it to YouTube, and didn't go on the festival circuit or didn't try to get it in theaters because it was the most shareable. We just wanted people to see it. He remarks on the fact that 1 in 400 Americans have seen this movie, right? Because it's at 2 million views and going up and to the right already, and that they're doing all of this with their own budget from people that are really loving their vision basically about what they're going to do for 16 grand, and B, that these people turned off ads on their video because they just wanted to accept donations and go 100% patronage model, which is kind of interesting. So I only bring it up because, again, these people, if you look at the title and thumbnail, they're uploading things. And I think Colin and Samir, they remark this. They say, he's doing this without a title that is optimized for YouTube, without a thumbnail that is optimized for YouTube, that it is 100% storytelling that is driving people to this thing, and the word of mouth amongst the community that might be interested in it that gets people to watching it, right? Which I think hits on a lot of those same themes, Dan, right, that you talked about, that, hey, we are now, it's kind of amazing to hear the very beginning of the story with the trick shot challenge driving all it. We learned this one little kernel of something that's really important. You 100% specialize on it. And now it's the key to not only getting people to watch, but watch for 2 hours. And not only watch for 2 hours, but keep coming back to watch for 2 hours every single month when you guys upload, which is really incredible. I'm going to keep us moving just because I want to get through all the topics, and because the next one also relates to this, which is that YouTube launched its own late night show, which is a part of this whole thing. So I don't know if you guys heard about this. YouTube the other day did a literal red carpet rollout in New York City. They invited a bunch of YouTubers to it, and this is from their blog. They say, we have done our first ever creator premieres, a film festival style showcase redefining the concept of prestige entertainment, inviting creators that are and storytellers shaping the new era. They use that word, storytellers, including Cleo Abram, Julian Shapiro Barnum, Mark Vins, and Trevor Noah. And they go on to outline all of the programming that they announced. So they're doing like a traditional studio, announcing the videos that are upcoming basically as shows on YouTube, right? So they talk about Julian Shapiro Barnum, Outside Tonight. This is their new live late night weekly series that they're premiering in spring 2026 on the official Outside Tonight YouTube channel. So they're literally launching a late night show of their own to basically compete. But that was kind of the headline news. They go on to kind of highlight a lot of the ongoing shows that are happening on YouTube, right? So Trevor Noah is releasing a 90-minute stand-up comedy special at the end of the year. Mark Vins is releasing a new documentary that's releasing in spring 2026. Cleo Abram is having Mark Rober on her Huge If True show, which the new episode premieres November 15th. Destroying is doing America versus London 1v1 with a new episode on November 30th. Dar Man is doing a 7 Days of Christmas special premiering December 5th through 19th. And Brittany Broski is having Paul Mescal on her show with new episodes premiering this fall with him. Miss Rachel has a new episode premiering in early 2026. And they're treating YouTube like a TV station would in this regard. And again, Deep Pocket Monsters fits directly into that storyline that you guys have a show that you're hitting over and over and over again. And I'm curious about what you guys think about YouTube elevating some of these shows like a traditional studio might. So, I mean, Dan, I don't know, from your perspective, I'm imagining that it would be nice to see this kind of program continue for the type of work that you guys are doing over at Deep Pocket Monsters. But do you have a reaction to what YouTube is doing here in terms of trying to kind of position YouTube as a competitor to TV itself?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense because I think a lot of those types of shows are just dying off in the ratings and how it's viewed in there. So I do feel like a lot of those studios anyway are just looking for somewhere to put stuff, and they've avoided YouTube and all of that for so long. So it makes sense that they'd be just throwing stuff on there. Though I'm curious to see how their approach will be, because I do think it probably needs to be a very different approach than what they've done. And it'll be interesting if it succeeds or fails. And I view it as, hey, well, it's opportunity for all of us, because we can take things and be creative in a different way. And I say we as in collective of creators who are on here that are not these traditional, agencies or studios that are doing these things, and be able to do what the audiences are really looking for versus just regurgitated television that wasn't working anyway. And there was a reason why people haven't gone back to watch that stuff anyway. So to me, it makes sense, yes, that they'd be going there because that's where the eyes are. And I think that's where the money is going. Obviously, it's not fully gone there yet, but it's going in this direction. So it makes sense. And if it brings more eyes, it brings more people on the platform, then great, because that just gives us more opportunities to hit it and to get people watching on TV and making, and not that it's just TV. Obviously, the other half is watching on phones and computers and tablets and all that. But for us, more than 50% is TV. So that's where I kind of put that focus there. So yeah, I mean, it's not something I'm going to be caring personally to watch. So that's why I'm curious if it'll even work.
That was my reaction too.
But it makes sense because there's really nowhere else to go besides any of these kind of platforms to put a late night series or even just other kinds of shows too.
Yeah, I bring it up because I mean your guys' show on Deep Pocket Monsters makes a lot of sense to me. That's something that would make sense to be a part of these things in the future, right? Not to say that that's what anybody's necessarily aiming for in the creator community, but it's interesting to see YouTube go that direction because I mean I'm telling you, when you first were talking about the way you guys were thinking about your show at Deep Pocket Monsters, that it really is 100% like a traditional programmer might think about TV, just with the YouTube approach, right? Like much more authentic, run and gun, more directly connected to your audience. I mean, I think about the way you talked about the way that you're reading some of your analytics and thinking about how you're evolving the show in order to better reach that audience to some degree. It sounds a lot like something that like Mr. Beast might say, for example, about the way he's optimized his show to some degree.
Yeah, when I think about this announcement, late night show, or just your more shows on traditional media being canceled and focusing on digital, it all comes down to money, right? So the reason traditional media was so slow to go from TV to YouTube is it's funny, like what Jimmy Kimmel said, they have to split the revenue with YouTube. We love the split, right? Because it was a way to get paid for what you were doing. For them, it's like, nah, we don't want to share any of this. And TV used to be the place where you would make a rich. You know, anytime I'd hear these stories of late night people, how much wealth they have. What is that? Jay Leno has the biggest car collection. He didn't just get that because, like, you know, he's really into the hobby. He partly got that because he has a lot of money, right? So for me, it's all about monetization. And that's why I think, even though, you know, ironically at the beginning I said, hey, don't let the financial side guide you, it's still such a huge part for the individual to pay the bills and take care of the family. But even for media companies, studios, in the case of like a whole industry, the money part. I want to ask you about monetization, and you said you guys are doing something on Deep Pocket Monster and get into some rapid fire after that. What's your thoughts on that? Is it changing now to where YouTube actually does pay, and not necessarily just through AdSense? And you know, what's your guys' thoughts? And then what are you guys doing to, you know, monetize on your channel?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, look, I mean, with the long form stuff, really long videos, AdSense can be great, especially if you get a lot of views, because you could fit a lot of mid rolls in there, right? And now YouTube's just automatically putting those in. I mean, for the longest time, I just only did manual because I didn't trust YouTube putting things, you know, ads in places that I didn't want them. And so I used to go through and like manually select, especially when you do storytelling. It's like I wanted stuff to be manually selected where I want. But now that YouTube is a little bit more intuitive with the AI picking spots, and you're not even allowed to kind of put your stuff where you want without that deciding if it's interruptive or not. I just said, all right, I'm just going to let YouTube do it. And it's been great. I've not had any issues with that. And obviously, depending on your niche and your content, if you've got a lot of views and you've got a, you know, a high RPM, you could make, you know, good money there on the AdSense. And then brand deals, obviously, that's always going to be a great thing. Sponsorships that you could bring in, no matter what, you know, no matter what industry or no matter what your, you know, views are. It's more relative to the types of content that you're making and the audience size, that there would be companies that want to sponsor or get themselves in front of you. And I think there's a lot of creative ways to do that as well, that don't necessarily just have to be a 30-second spot. We've been trying to find ways to
I don't think it should anymore.
Yeah. It just becomes skippable. It's just like and now with that little like jump ahead button that YouTube has, I love that button, even though
everyone loves that button.
I know we don't want to say it as creators, right? We want to be like, oh, like that was such a why that shouldn't be there, right? It's like, no, I think it's a great thing because I use it all the time when I'm skipping over people's ads that I don't care about, right? But that should show us like, hey, we need to figure out a different way and work with companies that are willing to work with you, right? And like we find ways to integrate into the story our sponsor, and it ultimately gives them a bigger win, and it's watchable for our audience. So a lot of our videos, we try to find ways to say, all right, if you're going to sponsor this video, we need to have it integrated in some way. And why? Maybe we need to educate them a little bit and just be like, you are going to get a much better response, and more likely they're going to go to your page or go to your, you know, website or your sales funnel, whatever, if you're integrated in this video to where they actually care to watch this stuff, right? So we'll do it where it's like, hey, they're going to send some packs. It's going to go to something. We did one where they sent mystery packs that Pat had to hand out. It became part of the challenge, and he had to hand out 30 of them, which meant he had to do 30 trades, right? So that became an element of the challenge. So he couldn't just buy his way through the challenge. He needed to at least do 30 trades in his challenge. So that added this storytelling element. It added another storyline that could be added in there. So don't be afraid to be creative with potential sponsors or brand deals that you can have, because I think that could then become even more useful for a story, or what I like to call A-B storyline.
Yes.
Where you have like your main storyline, but then you also have this other storyline that's kind of underlying that also helps a viewer who's maybe watching a long video who maybe gets bored of the initial storyline, but the second storyline keeps them hooked, and then they come back to the original storyline. So it's this back and forth. You could literally use a sponsor for that. That's great. Like that's a great way to use that.
Smart.
And then of course, selling your own merchandise is another way, or events. We've been doing events. We have Card Party, right? That's just another way to do it.
Can you give an
huge
example
expense.
of how you guys have done that, the AB storyline with a brand, for example? Are you able to share something about that?
Yeah, well, like just like that, where it was another one outside of the one with the packs was Pat was going to complete a set. This was in the summer, base set 2, and he met with his with a company called TCG Stadium that we work with, and we had him with the owner in the warehouse, and he was touring the warehouse and everything, and he told Pat, hey, if you can complete this set in 24 hours or 48 hours. If you can complete the set in 48 hours, I will I will buy and give away 100 of your books, Pat's book, his new book, to 100 people in your audience. Right. So now it was the sponsor setting off the challenge.
Kind of like his son did in the original challenge video, but in this case, it's the sponsor who's the one that frames the whole challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, okay, cool. So now if Pat loses, someone might win the binder. But if he wins, the audience might win 100 of Pat's books. So there's 100 people that might get a chance. Then 24 hours into the challenge, he gets a FaceTime from the sponsor while he's driving in the car. And the sponsor's like, hey, how's it going? Pat's saying how things are. And he goes, okay, cool. Well, hey, I want to up it. If you win, not only will I do the 100 books, I will also include a pack of Pokemon cards with that book for every person. So now it's a book and a pack of Pokemon cards.
You've raised the stakes at that point.
It raised it to even bigger. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to do it now. Because now it's not just a selfish, you got my book. It's now you're also getting a pack of Pokemon cards for free, which happen to be pretty expensive right now. Right. So like that creates this B story. So like the A storyline is like, hey, I got to complete this challenge. But now there's this like B storyline of, is he going to be able to, like, is this the sponsor going to pull through with this? It's going to happen, or is Pat going to end up having to pay for all this? Like stuff like that comes that. The other one was the sponsor was giving 30 mystery envelopes. And so Pat had to complete a challenge anyway. He was completing a challenge in 24 hours. But 30 exchanges had to be via trades, couldn't be purchased, because every time he trades with someone, he has to give them this mystery envelope. So like that's now this B storyline of, all right, is he going to get all these? Because if he completes the challenge before he does 30 trades, that he loses, right? So now there's this other element of being able to include a story with your sponsor, and I think there's so many. That's a complex way of doing it, but there could be smaller ways to be able to do this. It doesn't have to be that complex. We have to do it complex because of the story, but it could be very simple, some little thing. For us, I always like to look at things as roadblocks, because roadblocks are like the classic way of telling a story. The real simple way is send your main character up a tree, poke him with a stick, and take him out of the tree. Right. So that poking with the stick is the roadblocks, the pain points, the things that happen along the way that most of us would probably cut out and go, okay, I don't want to show like this thing, but I did my talk recently at VidSummit, and someone said like, oh, hey, I have a channel that's like about crabbing or something. And it's like, I want to talk, like, how can I include stories? And I'm like, you probably have so many stories and you probably don't even realize it. It's because the things that are most relatable are the things where maybe you went out and nothing worked that day. Like everything was just failing, and like your stuff was all tangled up, and I don't know how crabbing works and all this stuff. But like, you think about like all the different pain points that happen along that way that maybe you'd cut out because you feel like, I don't want anyone to see this. But those could be particular important story points. And those could also be story points for you and a sponsor, right? Because it could be like, hey, I'm notoriously tangle all these things, and now we've got this sponsor who helps me. Like, I never get tangled like this anymore, right? So it's this little story spot of how it works without it feeling like an ad or a 30-second spot that can go, but you're leaning into these points that are very relatable, leaning into things where it's not me, the expert that's so good at everything. It's me, the human who fails, and here's the areas I fail and how I've failed and how hard it is, but I'm going to keep trying to achieve this thing. And here's the people that have come along the way. And those people could be sponsors, but if we view them as people and we talk about them like people as opposed to businesses that are trying to take your money, then we kind of can, it's a little different. So
it's almost like you're putting
a
face and identity to the brand versus a brand interrupting the flow of your face and your, like identity.
It sets them up as characters basically in the story, right? It gives them a purpose for being there rather than something that's interrupting the story overall. It actually makes this video more interesting because it's an additional challenge that Pat has to take on, which brings me actually to something else that maybe I heard about, which is that I think you guys are doing new merch as well. So that's another revenue line, right, that you talk about. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing there? Because it sounds like it's another thing that's innovative that you guys are doing.
Yeah, so we've been talking about this for a little while, and I'm so excited. It's finally been launched. This shirt that I'm wearing right here, SIOIOSIKIS, which is the short form channel. It's the should I open it or should I keep it sealed?
That's cool.
I love that.
Right? Yeah. So this is like Pat really likes like the college kind of look, like acronym kind of thing. And so we've been doing that channel. He's been doing super successful, very, very viral kind of short form stuff. And it's, opening different packs, mostly Pokemon, sometimes some other things of, should I open or should I keep it sealed? And we're always talking when we're in the car and stuff. We're always thinking about like different things, and we're always just like ideating, right? Thinking about whatever. And it was like, well, what if there was like a shirt, just like a should I open it or should I keep it sealed shirt? SIOIOSIKS. Okay, cool. But what if the bag it came in, you actually get to play the game.
Wow.
So the shirt is this. This is the base shirt. And then, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but on the back, it says like oh no, you should have kept it sealed. That's the
smart.
Base shirt.
That's smart.
So this is like...
It's a little Willy Wonka in there to some degree.
Yes. So this is the bag. So you get the bag. It's got Pat's thumbs on it.
Diglets?
Yes, his little diglets. So this is the bag. Should I open it? Should I keep it sealed? Right. And so you have a 1 in 50 chance of pulling a Chase shirt. So then there's the black and gold, I think it is, that on the back it'll say, wow, you actually got something good. And then there's going to be a few others that are all different colors. There's like a red, a purple, a blue, and Pat actually signed them. And do I have one on me? There's a coin that comes with this as well. Yeah. And it's one side, it says open it, and the other side is keep it sealed. Right. That. So it's like if you're opening a pack or whatever, you can have this coin, flip the coin, and it makes the decision for you on if you should open your pack or keep it sealed. And so at least this first wave came with them. I don't know if other waves will come with it. We're actually, I believe it's like nearly sold out on this first wave of doing it. And all it was a community post. We always give to our members first, our YouTube members, the Gemmin Club. They always kind of get first dibs at it. So they were the first ones it was announced to in a community post and in our Discord that's members only. And huge portion of it sold from that. And then all he did from there was mention it at the back end of a single short a couple days later. And that's it, in order for it to almost all sell out of the first wave. So I know that second wave is coming at some point. I don't know. Pat knows all the details on that. But we wanted to think of like what could be one with merch. I like the idea of limited drops because it makes it more exclusive. It makes it more like, hey, there's something like fun here to do. But also like it makes it a game. Like we gamified it to be like, hey, it's not some kind of crazy odds. It's not some kind of like crazy collector shirt. It's just like a fun way to be able to play the game yourself. So like if you could think about your merch in interesting ways and then find someone who can create that for you and with you. I mean, we work with Product and TFN and they're great guys.
Yeah.
And like to be able to pull off something like this is just, it's fun. So it makes it unique, and trying to think of a unique angle for your merchandise trying to think of it like how do we put something fun out there for our audience instead of just like we've done a lot of the logo shirts and all that kind of stuff. But what can we do that's beyond that? Knowing who our audience is a collector audience. So we need to make stuff with that in mind.
Smart.
Right?
So
that's why we go that way.
The big takeaway, both on brand deals and merch, is don't do it like we've done it forever. It doesn't work because it's been done. It's kind of similar to content. What's novel and new is what's going to be different and also interesting.
And also what's aligned with your audience.
Exactly. And so you guys are just so smart. I also do that whole thing with brand deals now. I have it as part of the creative. So I just worked with an appliance company, and rather than just say, hey, this appliance is awesome, and it's just like one spot, I actually said, hey, it's an appliance that it's a smart kitchen robot. I feel like a commercial right now, and it does all kinds of different functions. And what I said was like, I'm a dad cooking for my girls, my wife is away, and all my meals are going to be cooked with this machine. I don't even force it either. Like sometimes I'm cooking a meal and that's just like, like a side dish. In one case, I didn't even mention I'm using it. It's just like in the content itself. And then there's a whole segment where I do more of the traditional like sponsor spot. So whether it's merch or brand deals, you got to do that. So, hey, Dan, I want to respect your time. We got a whole bunch of people that just came in and just promoted the show because, for us, it's just barely 9 a.m. here. So I want to end the show by doing two things. Number one, a rapid fire. Okay, this was one of my favorite sections in my old show, and I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of YouTube questions, and you answer them rapid fire style. I'm not going to put a limit on how long you want to answer, but kind of like the cadence there. And then we're going to ask some questions from the audience, and respect the time, let you go. Are you ready for a rapid fire session?
Yes, absolutely. Let's go.
All right, so let's get into these. Are all YouTube related questions, or maybe like creator related questions. For anybody that's just joining us right now, just so you know, Dan is one of the most successful creators I know that's crushing it right now, specifically with longform. They've gotten over 300 plus million views on their one longform channel that's got videos anywhere from 1 to 3 hours long. So just imagine how much AdSense you're getting from that. So they're definitely crushing it. Pat Flynn, the founder of the channel that Dan works with, also has another channel that's, I think, done over 1 billion views. So together as a team, they're very successful, but they really specialize on long form content and storytelling. So I'm going to ask a whole bunch of questions that creators would love to ask you and that I want to know from you. If you're starting from zero on YouTube, what would you do?
Ooh, if I was starting from zero, do I know the channel, or am I trying to figure that out?
Whatever. If like somebody asks you, hey, I'm starting from zero, what's advice you'd give to me if I'm starting on YouTube and I've got some experience, but I still consider myself a beginner? Sure.
My focus would always be on who are you like making this for? Like who's this content for? And I know, Benji, you are absolutely on board with this as well, because it's even something we've recently talked about. It's just the idea of like, who is your audience, and trying to at least have some kind of understanding of their relationship with YouTube. How are they watching YouTube? What are they watching on YouTube? It's not about copying other content. It's not about whatever. It's just trying to have a little bit of an idea of, am I making this for me? Then I should only really expect one view on the videos. So that should be my expectation. If I'm making it for someone else, like what are they watching, so that I know how to engage with them. I know what language to use. I know how to communicate with them. This would be the same thing as if you walked into a room to talk to a bunch of people, right? If you came in and I talk on this subject, I'm going to go into a room and talk to a bunch of people. If you go in and you start talking in a way that is so unfamiliar to them, they're going to be lost, tired, bored, not care, right? So at least having some kind of understanding with that. And two, I'm going to try to keep it brief. Is being willing to fail, being okay with it not taking off potentially for a while, but look for cues along the way, right? If it starts with the audience focus first, being willing to fail and being willing that no one's going to watch this stuff, but if people do, What are little cues? What are the things that they're saying to me that I can help adjust to make it better, to make something that they'll actually spend time watching that will result in views, watch time, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, you always start with the audience first, because if you don't start with them, don't expect any views. The one view will be yourself, right? All right, second question is solo versus team. What's your advice for someone going solo, and when do you start hiring a team or growing the team? Or are you part of the camp that you want a team right from the get-go? And to give some context to Dan, I thought Dan was the editor of the channel, right? When I met up with him here in Seattle recently, he's just the producer. When I say just a producer, I mean, that's an important role. And he's focused on storytelling, but does not edit, has a team. So with that being said, what's your thoughts about solo versus team? When do you hire? How soon do you hire? And would you ever just go at it solo, like long term?
I would say it depends on your positioning. For the most part, I would say it is worth getting your feet wet in all of it as a someone who's just starting out. If you've never done any of it before, get your feet wet in all of it, because it's important for you to know how to drive the ship, right? So like if you're the captain of a ship, you should understand how that ship works, and you should understand how all those things work. You may not do all of the things in the ship eventually if you're the captain of it, but you should know how it all works. Because if you hire a bunch of people, things could go haywire and you don't know why. And you also should be directing. If you have a team, it's always going to take way longer at the beginning and way more work, and honestly becomes way more of a headache than if you do it yourself in the beginning. And it also takes finding the right team and the right people, and that could cause more of a headache. And then what you don't know is it just that it's not working, or is it that my team's not working?
Yeah. Never expect that they're going to do the work for you, right? Even if you hire someone, you're going to have to work to make sure they're doing the work, not because they're lazy, but because they really need your guidance, right?
Yeah. I mean, the worst thing to tell an editor or a thumbnail designer or anyone is, hey, you're the expert. Just go be creative. Like, just go make this good, when you don't know what it is, right? You need to be, you're the one who knows your audience. You're the one who knows the content. You're the one who knows. And this is why I say, like, you should know the language your audience speaks, not just the actual language, but how they communicate, the different ways. This will be how you'll know, okay, I know how this is going to get taken. We need to edit and adjust this to make sure, like in a Pokemon pack, like let's just say opening a Pokemon pack. If you cut anywhere once the pack is opened, the immediate assumption is that you did something to that pack, that you did something right to it, to whatever that result is going to be. So we would need to know the audience, like why, like we wouldn't want to cut once the pack starts opening. So an editor might just put that cut in there, and then I have to go back and say, all right, just remove that cut, because you could speed up the edit, but we just can't have that cut in there. So that would be things that you as the creator need to know, like, so that you can inform your team on how to do. So if you start by yourself, then I feel like that's the best. And then add as you find the bottlenecks for you, right? So maybe a lot of people it's editing. Some people it's not. Some people it's like, hey, I need someone who's going to do the thumbnails before the editing. Maybe it's someone I need to do just overall organization and assistant work. You figure out the bottlenecks as you go. Now, if you've just got a lot of resources and you have very little time, then obviously it makes sense. You need to hire some kind of team and put people in place, because your time is limited for you to be able to do it. But I would say most of the time, start solo if that's how if you're just learning. And then as you go, figure those things out, because you're still going to need to dictate. You shouldn't hire a thumbnail designer and they just handle figuring it out. You need to tell them what you want. An editor, you need to tell them what you want. Use something like Frame.io or whatever to be able to put notes in an edit, not just whatever they gave me, we're just going to upload, right?
So important.
So that's why I would say that way.
Even with my editor that I've known for over a decade, I still tell him the same things I told him in year 1, in year 10, and that's just the way it is, okay? It's nothing against his skills. He actually is one of the most skilled editors I know. Okay, next question. What is something that's being slept on, underrated, or people don't know in regards to YouTube that you're like, dang, this is something we should be paying attention to?
Oh man, let me think. What is? I mean, we premiere a lot of our videos, but I wouldn't suggest premiering videos unless you've got a lot of momentum behind it. But what I would say, and maybe I would change my answer if I had a little more time to think about it, but if you have a series of videos and the series is building momentum, you get to like maybe the last episode or something, the last of a series, maybe you treat it like a premiere, like an event, so that you can have this live chat that your audience is with. We've been able to build up enough momentum to every video that we premiere every single video.
Yeah.
But it's very much not common, and it is not going to be a great practice for everyone, because you don't want to send a signal.
Are you guys in the chat engaging?
Yes.
Oh, you have to. I mean, premieres are worthless unless you're engaging. That's kind of the whole point, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah, I see a lot of people using premieres, and a lot of people use it because we do, and I'm just like, you gotta be careful, because it also sends a signal that, hey, not a lot of people showed up to this, right? So
yeah,
you don't want to show
if
that.
you have no audience. Okay, so on that note, so by the way, you can even say an answer we already did, right? Because a lot of people might literally just be waking up. Like 2 examples of underrated things right now. YouTube's about to let you live stream vertical and horizontal at the same time. Freaking mind-blowing, okay? Because that means on the shorts feed or the regular feed, your live could show up. That's an example for me, I think, that creators are sleeping on. And then this is something I learned from you guys. If you're focused on quality and storytelling, and in the case of your guys' channel, sometimes it's like a month or 2, right, between uploads. Using the in-between time to do live streams is so smart. And if you think about vertical and horizontal at the same time, people are going to become not just fans of people like Pat or yourself, right? But they're going to become your friends, right? It's very one-sided because you don't know who they are. And what do you want to do with a friend? You want to hang out with them. And so for us, we literally daily vlog, my wife and I. But I'm going to totally start doing live streams. By that, shout out to Ecamm, right? We're going to start using Ecamm for our live streams here soon. So, those are kind of another example. Anything you want to add there, or should I ask my last rapid fire question?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Like, live streaming is so important. I think it's become more and more important for selling too. So if you have a product, if you're a business that sells something, like getting on there and selling, like obviously there's the big, whatnots and all those kind of things. But even on YouTube, like you can connect your store, add your products on the back end of just even on the YouTube shelf, but on a stream, you can add them to the stream. And then you could pin them or automatically pin them as you want, and they will show up as buyable. Like you could literally click it on the screen and do that. So if you have something you sell, like that's a huge element, but it's a huge way to go deeper with your audience. And be able to test different things, experiment. You'd be able to ask questions that you wouldn't normally get to ask, that give you a little more insight into who your audience is. And yes, exactly like you said, the way we use it is to fill in the gaps between not having just a month of no content. It's these, 2-hour-long live streams every Monday or most Mondays to be able to do that. And then we also leverage it in our videos. Like we said, like he will give away something he's lost, and we say, hey, it's going to get given away in a live stream. So even in your videos, you could mention live streams that happen on the channel, which is a reason to tell them to subscribe. Like, hey, I do live streaming. That's probably what you're going to want to subscribe for. Because these videos will probably show up in your stream, but maybe you want to get that notification when I'm live. So like subscribe, because I'm going to go live and we're going to cook a meal together or something. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying, with what you do, Benji, you're live shopping in Costco or something. I don't know.
I want to do that one day.
We were just talking about that.
All right. Last question. And I actually do believe there is a number now, but top 5 questions I get from beginners and seasoned influencers that have been doing it is, how long should my video be? Now I'm just going to preface this. I used to say as long as it needs to be, right? And there was an era, it was like, as shorter is better. But now I actually think there's a magic number. So my question to you is, what is the magic number for the length of your videos, and what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah. It's hard because funny part for us is like 30 minutes is short now. So for a Deep Pocket Monster, where it used to be like, oh man, I can't believe we just made 30 minutes. But I would say if you're looking to get on TV now, obviously I don't have a way to 100% prove this, but it's like, obviously YouTube is going to share content that is what people naturally watch on the devices they're watching on, in the spaces that they naturally watch the type of content on. And so obviously TV, yes, you'll find short form stuff on there. People will watch shorts on TV. I don't know how people watch shorts on TV, and I don't know how it's enjoyable, but they do, because you could see it in the analytics. And I think it's probably a lot of kids, it's a lot of families that are just putting it on and it's just running, right? It's just going. But I've found that, hey, if we could get the video over 30 minutes, if we could hit 50 an hour, whatever, our viewership on TV is up. Now, granted, it's also the retention is kept up, so like it's interesting to watch for that length of time. So YouTube seems to be more naturally inclined to share via the browse feed, the home feed, the suggested feeds, longer form content like that, which is live streams, which is long videos, which is longer vlogs. So I would kind of say we aim to be like, hey, if we could be in like the 40 to 50 minute range, the video we're about to come out with is probably going to be our second longest video, only behind the 4-hour compilation video that we have. So yeah, it's long, but I would say striving to try to get over 30 would be the way to try to test if you could show up on more TVs.
That's my magic number now. And I'll tell you why. 30 minutes. This is the first time ever I actually have a number because of television, because of the behavior and the habits of TV. So when we think about a show, right? Like you talk about how like making sure to deliver on expectations. So like your videos, you wouldn't put out a bad video, always make as great a video as possible, at least a good video, right? Part of that too, I think, is length, because on TV we watch half-hour shows. That's our whole life revolves around that half-hour segments, right? The second number is 1 hour. And so this is 100% because of the TV. And I actually believe YouTube kind of like turns on the lever on those videos that are hitting. Now, what's funny is, guess what? 28 minutes, not going to make a big difference. Even like 25, it's a good video, but there's something about 30 minutes that's really important. But that's just a beginning. Like you said, if you do a dope 2 hours or 3 hours, great. You know, I just tested a 1 hour and 15 minute vlog and the AVD on it was 22 minutes. I'm really happy about it, but it's not my best, right? Because usually I get 50%. So I was expecting maybe like, 35 minutes or whatever. So 30 minutes, you guys. Follow and subscribe. DM me if you want more information why that's important. If you're just starting out, it might be hard for you to get to 13 minutes. Okay. So, take it with a grain of salt. I want to respect your day.
Yes.
We got a question that Austin wants to ask you, and then we can let you go. But you guys, this isn't the end. I would love to have Dan back on again in the future. But why don't you ask the question?
Yeah, this is one that's ongoing. We just recently got it again from a creator friend, actually. And I think this is one that Benji and I have debated. So I would love to have a little tiny small debate here as we close out the show. But the question is simple. Should creators still separate their short form and their long form on separate channels?
Okay. So we did.
Yes.
But we also experimented with shorts when it first came out. So we did really well on those. For the longest time, one of our shorts was our longest viewed video until finally the long form Evolving Skies went beyond that. But what we were noticing back then, this was probably 2022, 2021, 2022, when the shorts were starting, was the shorts seemed to be cannibalizing our long form. And the reason for that was, back then, YouTube was seeing, what are you primarily getting your views from? Okay, of course it would be shorts, because it was so like visceral, like kind of like insane, like didn't make any rhyme or reason with how or where it was being shared. We'd be getting all these like hate comments because it's all these people who are like, who opens up Pokemon cards? Like, this is, you're an adult, like all this kind of stuff. So It was clearly not going to the right audience. And so that was what I was looking at the comments. I'm like, this is not the right audience. And I was a little worried about that. But I was like, all right, it's just the shorts. Like the long form stuff will be fine. But I noticed as soon as the shorts were taking off, the long forms would start to decline. And what was happening back then was YouTube was seeing the majority of the audience are watching videos that are a minute long. So they're less likely to share the videos that were longer than a minute and more likely to share the videos that were at a minute. And so it was like, okay, you know what? Let's just not do any more shorts. And as soon as we stopped doing the shorts, again, I'm not talking about right now, I'm talking about back then. And we just put more time into the longs and just completely cut out the shorts. We finally started to get the longs going up. Now, granted, It could have also been we got clued into the storytelling and we got clued into how to make better videos, and the videos we were doing before, yes, they were good, but they weren't worthy of the content that we were making later. So yes, there was a change and shift. Maybe it clearly wasn't 100% because of stopping the shorts. But we weren't doing any shorts for a while. Then Pat started to do these like short form stuff on Instagram and TikTok. And I was like, I remember it. I was in the hospital with our second child was born, and Pat was posting these, and I had texted him. I'm like up late because the baby and my wife was asleep, and while I'm walking the hallways of the hospital, it's like, hey, I see you're having fun with those shorts on Instagram. You know what we should do is create a second channel and not tell anybody about it, and see what YouTube does. And so we did. We literally, I have the text. It's like us going back and forth in the channel name, and we were just like, all right, Short Pocket Monster. Let's not tell anybody. No one. It's just. Like, how everyone's like, oh, of course you did because you told everybody on your big channel and everyone went over. And it's like, no, this is going to be our proof that like you can make something successful without having to, like, it doesn't show Pat's face. It's not like people were finding it on YouTube in association with Deep Pocket Monster. And we didn't tell anybody until we got to 100,000 subscribers on that channel. And it got there pretty quick because it's shorts. I mean, we probably should have told our mods, because we had a couple of mods come and be like, hey, like, is someone like uploading your stuff? And it was like, oh, no, that's actually Pat. We just haven't told anyone, but we should probably tell you guys at least, because, you're doing what you're doing above and beyond what you should be doing. But we kept them separate. And here's the reason why we keep them separate is they're two different value propositions. One, when you see a notification for a Deep Pocket Monster video, you expect hour-long, 2-hour-long video. It's going to be an epic adventure that you're going to sit back and watch. But then you get a notification, you click on it, and it's a 1-minute short. Would that not be disappointing? And so to me, that's why we keep it separate. Could we keep them on the same channel? Probably, especially because there's a lot of crossover audience, but there's a lot of people who only know Pat for Short Pocket Monster. And in fact, they don't know him as Short Pocket Monster or Deep Pocket Monster. They know him as the should I open it guy. Like, should I open it or should I keep it sealed guy? That's like short form content. You should have a shtick, because if you have a shtick, that's what they know you for. So like a thing that you say, a thing that you do in the beginning of your shorts or your TikToks or whatever, you become that person. Because most of us, like I think of all these like short form channels that I've watched on YouTube or TikTok or probably more Instagram. I'm like, I have no clue what their name is. Just that guy who does that thing on the farm. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of way that we talk about these short form creators, where the long form, they know it's Deep Pocket Monster. It's Pat Flynn. He's, whatever. It's a deeper relationship. So there's these two different relationships and how the viewers interact and who the viewers are. So if it's the same value proposition, meaning your short forms are the same kinds of things that you expect to see in your long forms, then I would put it on the same channel. And because there's a bit more separation now than there was in 2021, 2022 that was affecting it then. I wouldn't say it's affecting it in the same way now. That would be the key.
Yeah, your answer is so sophisticated compared to what Benji and I were debating the other day. I think Benji is sort of team yes, separate, team no, separate.
Yes, separate, but I want to say so much if I answer
know.
this.
And I think I actually, at this point, I'm also team yes, separate, if I was just going to no context answer, just simply from the creator's perspective, so that way you can see the statistics. But we got to let you go, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Everybody should go to deeppocketmonster.com if they want to kind of see the general picture of what's going on. But really, go check out their channel at Deep Pocket Monster and Short Pocket Monster. Again, Dan, thank you so much for joining us, for being the first guest on the Creator Secrets podcast.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. Like it's so enjoyable to talk with you guys. I mean, like I said, we could talk forever, so we could keep this thing going for another 4 hours. I know we've got Gonzo in the chat. We got Doc Rock in the chat. We've got a bunch of people in here that are
some great convos there.
Friends. Yeah, a lot of conversation in the chat. Thank you everyone for keeping it going in there. Wish it could have got to more of those things there. But Gonzo, he's a huge character in our videos, so he's in there. And of course Doc Rock, a big part of Card Party. So.
We'll do it again soon, obviously. And
this is supposed to be Clubhouse 2025, right? 2026, except on YouTube.
It's happening on YouTube.
And so in the future, I would love to bring more people on, but just getting our feet wet.
So again, thank you to Dan. Check out Deep Pocket Monster, and thank you to the students of Vlogging Academy who make this show possible.